All right, so we had Israel attack Iran last night, and today the markets are moving like crazy. If you look at the markets today, you've got markets generally down. You've got Bitcoin giving back some of its gains, 104,830. The S&P slightly down. Altcoins absolutely getting annihilated. You can see it on the bubbles. The altcoins are getting annihilated. The truth is that over the next couple of days, you're going to get a lot of noise and a lot of news headlines about what's happening in the Middle East. And it's going to be very hard to decipher what's real and what's just noise. I'm going to show you today, I'm going to show you one indicator, one chart that tells you exactly what's going on in the Middle East. It'll tell you not only how bad things are in the Middle East, but also when this thing is actually going to end. I'm also going to show you some previous attacks and how long they've lasted and how they've affected markets, because if you understand how markets have performed previously, then you can understand what moves to make in the market, and I'll show you exactly what moves I'm making in the market. So if that sounds good to you, and as P says, it is a crazy world out there. It's the Friday show. We don't normally do these kind of Friday shows. Usually on Fridays we do the banters, but today, because of the attacks, I thought we'd come live and we'd bring you guys crypto love and crypto wisdom. So let's do this, guys. Let's get into it. That's footage from a ballistic missile base in Iran, and it's on fire and it was exploding earlier today. And there are many more scenes like that because, as you know, Israel invaded Iran last night in a very targeted attack. It wasn't a widespread attack, and specifically it wasn't around civilians. It seems to have been a very targeted attack. The attack was around nuclear facilities and Iran's leaders and nuclear leaders and stuff like that. And today, as I said, the markets are responding like crazy. You've got specifically crypto. You've got the altcoins down. You've got Bitcoin down. You've got the VIX up, volatility index up, and we're going to dive into all of those and decide exactly what this means. Is it time to actually go risk off, or is it time to actually go more risk on? That's really where we're going to finish the show today. So at the end, we'll make a decision as to whether we should be going risk on or risk off in this market. So listen, if that sounds good to you, you know what you need to do. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, you know what to do. Just subscribe to the channel. Help us get distribution of this content. Also, if you want to help us some more, just smash the like button. It takes nothing. It takes nothing from no effort from your side. Just tap the like button. And what it does is it really helps us get distribution of these shows. And we work really hard to bring these shows to you. I mean, here I am on a Friday bringing you another long show with full of alpha. So let's get into the show. I'm counting on you guys to obliterate the like button. I'm going to just go into the alpha immediately. So where are we? We've had a very targeted attack of strikes on Tehran, and specifically Israel invaded nuclear targets. You can see in this video footage over here, and there's a whole lot of other video footage which I'm going to show you today. This is the Israeli strikes specifically in nuclear targets in Tehran. And there's a lot of these going around the internet. You'll see a ton of these going around the internet. The interesting thing is that Israel actually waited until exactly 2 minutes after the market closed before they actually launched these attacks. So you could see they did it with extreme precision. They waited for markets to close before they actually instigated these attacks. And you can see that sent the volatility index spiking up there. You can see some more strikes and more attacks over here, specifically on a specific nuclear base. Those are images taken in Iran. You can see here that the strikes were, for all intents and purposes, very precision strikes. They were going after nuclear targets. They were also going after Iran's commanders and chiefs, their rulers, their top Iranian leaders. And you can see that they actually removed or eliminated some of the top leaders. I'm not even going to try and pronounce all these names. Ali Akbar Ahmadin, he was the Secretary General of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Ismail Qani, head of the Quds Force. General Hussein Salami, Iran's Revolutionary Guards commander. And you can see that many of these very big targets for Israel and probably for the United States have been eliminated. This is an attack that took place last night from exactly when the markets closed. And as you can see, they eliminated here. They say 3 of Iran's most powerful men killed as Israel targets top nuclear leadership. So they really were going after nuclear leadership. These were coming out in Telegram groups. The commander of Iran's IRGC aerospace is now also reported to have been eliminated. And so you can see Israel went with extreme precision. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, he summarized why Israel entered into this. And this is quite important because we're going to talk a little bit about this. Let's listen to what his reasons were.
Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
So according to Israel, these strikes happened to reduce Iran's nuclear capabilities, which Iran had actually been accelerating. Now, you'll remember, if you've been following Netanyahu or Netanyahu's history, you'll remember that he's been calling for the removal of Iran's nuclear capabilities for very, very, very long. In fact, from 1992, he's been calling away from this to happen. And so for Netanyahu, this is quite a big thing. This is something that he's, I think, wanted to do for a long period of time. I guess with the previous Biden administration, he never had the support of the Biden administration to actually execute this. And now that Trump's in power, he seems to have the confidence to actually execute it. We'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of seconds. Anyway, so that is the attack. Now, Iran obviously has vowed that they're going to retaliate. They're not just going to sit down and just take this on the chin. In fact, they've come out and said the Zionist entity, which is Israel, must expect severe punishment. The strong hand of the Islamic Republic's military force will not relent from it. The criminal entity has planned a bitter fate and a future of full torment for itself, basically threatening Israel. They also said that they would have the last word. Iran vows that for revenge and for Israeli strikes, saying it will write the end of the story. They're going to have the last word in the story. Also, just some more messages saying Iran's legitimate and powerful response will make Israel regret its foolish act. And that comes from Iran's president in a message to their nation. Lindsey Graham in the United States says, people wondering if Iran will attack the American military personnel or interests throughout the region because of Israel's attack on Iran. My answer is if they do, America should have an overwhelming response, destroying all of Iran's oil refineries and all of the oil structure, putting Ayatollah and his henchmen out of the oil business completely. So that's the attitude of Iran. Iran did respond. They sent about, I think it was 100. They sent, I think, about 100 drones towards Israel. Fortunately, none of the drones actually hit, and so far I think there have been very few or even no casualties as a result of this. So this is pretty much what's happening. Now let's talk about markets, and let's talk about the one chart that you should be watching if you want to know exactly how bad this actually is, because there's really no way to know how bad this actually is from the news. Who do you believe? Where do you get your headlines from? Which Twitter accounts? Which news accounts? Is it more left-wing? Is it more right-wing? Is it more towards Iran? Is it more towards we know that the West controls most of the media. So the question is, how do you know what's actually happening in Iran? And the truth is, the only way to actually know that is to actually look at the markets, because the markets and the money are the real barometer of exactly what's going on in the markets. So let's actually look at what's happening in the market. So let's take a look at the important things. The first chart that you should be looking at is the Brent crude oil chart. Now, what you'll notice about this chart is that oil spiked all the way to about $75 a barrel. And that was from about 2 days ago when it started at $66 a barrel. And what's interesting to note in this chart is that it actually touched a resistance line. It actually touched a very important trend line, and it retreated from this trend line. And just keep that in mind as we carry on going here. If you look at the VIX, this is the volatility index. The volatility index spiked to about 22, and is now back at 19.61, right? Then you got Bitcoin. Bitcoin was at about 110,000 3 days ago before these tensions started. Bitcoin now at 105,000. The lowest that Bitcoin went was about 102,895. In this market collapse, we had about $1.1 billion in liquidations. And if I remember correctly, about 250,000 traders were liquidated. So mainly long liquidations got destroyed. In this, I think the big liquidations were the altcoins. You can see the altcoins absolutely got obliterated. And I know it may be a little bit too soon, but I actually tweeted this on Twitter. I said last night, Israel launched a targeted attack on my crypto again. The attacks were executed with extreme precision and targeted my altcoins in particular. They eliminated all my gains on 𝗪𝗪 and various other DeFi plays. So the sector that was the most hit in this attack was actually the altcoins, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So what is the chart that you should be looking at to block out all the noise and tell you everything that you need to know about this Iran-Israel war and the escalation? Because there's going to be a lot of news headlines. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out of various media outlets. And ultimately, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to determine what's noise and what's real. And the only way to actually do that is to actually look, in my opinion, specifically at one chart. And that chart, as Chris says, is to look at the oil chart, right? Because let me first explain to you why the oil chart is such a big indicator about this. So, of course, Iran is one of the world's biggest oil manufacturers, but it's not actually about Iranian oil, because the Iranian oil, there are sanctions on any country that buys oil from Iran. So what the US has done is the US has placed sanctions on anyone that buys oil from Iran. And so I was looking this up earlier, and it pretty much says that there's no ban on buying US oil, but there's sanctions. So there's no universal prohibition, but the United States State Department enforced strict sanctions aimed at Iran's petroleum industry. So it's not actually about Iran's petroleum industry. What this is all about is it's about a very small area of land called the Strait of Hormuz. And that's a little area it's a little area which is controlled or just outside of Iran. Now, that little piece of piece of water, that little canal, is basically responsible for the movement of about 20% of all the world's oil. Okay, so 20% of all the world's oil, whether it comes from Qatar, from Oman, from any of those other countries, flows through this thing called the Strait of Hormuz. The problem is that analysts believe that if this thing actually escalates, then Iran will basically block the Strait of Hormuz, and basically ships and oil won't be able to get through the Strait of Hormuz. And if that happens, then the price of oil could go up to as much as $130 a barrel. So JP Morgan says, look, if this thing actually escalates, they've done their calculations and they say, because of the Strait of Hormuz, because of this, the disruption of the oil industry on the Strait of Hormuz, effectively what they're saying is that the price of oil could spike, and could probably spike to as high as $130 per barrel. And so the truth is, if you want to know what's actually happening in the Middle East, and you want to know exactly what the real situation is over there, just look at the oil chart. And right now, the oil chart's telling you a big story. The story that the oil chart is telling you, and if you look at this trend line actually can go back. Oh, sorry, that's not the trend line. The trend line can actually go back all the way up to here. You can kind of take that trend. Oh, sorry, I'm improvising here a little bit. So you can take that trend line. You can actually draw that trend line all the way back to 2023. And what you can see is that the oil price spiked and was rejected exactly on that trend line. So it's quite uncanny. Like, you look at this and you say, the price bounced, it touched $76, which is exactly where that trend line is, and now it's retreated back to $73.50. My theory here is a very simple theory, and this is really the only indicator that you need to be watching. If oil spikes above this trend line, breaks above this trend line, and carries on above this trend line, you know things in the Middle East are actually really, really, really escalating. And if not, if it stays below the trend line, then you kind of know that the things in the Middle East are pretty much under control. That's the one thing you need to know. The second thing that you need to know is to say the following. If the oil price stays below this, what you can expect is you can expect a recovery and a continuation of the rally in all the other markets. If the oil price goes above this, then it's an indicator to the world that this thing has escalated and that the stock markets and all other risk assets will actually go down. Now, when I say all other risk assets, I'm putting a little bit of a disclaimer here. If you look at what happened to gold, so you look at gold, and yesterday, when these attacks actually happened, the one thing that happened was that the gold price actually spiked, right? And so the question is now, where will the world put Bitcoin? Will Bitcoin be compared to gold? Will it be a safe haven? Or will it be treated like a risk asset? In the early days of this, as you can see, the gold actually went up and Bitcoin actually went down. But Bitcoin didn't go down very much. Relative to what's actually happened, Bitcoin actually didn't go down very much. And so right now, I think all eyes are on one chart. And we're looking at the oil chart. And let's call this the resistance line here. Let's call this little resistance line over here. Let's call this the war line and the escalation line. And if we go above this and oil starts trading above this, it means that oil traders and the world is pricing oil above in the war zone. And if it stays below this, and let's just say that oil is now in the safe zone. And so really for us to block all the noise and all the media FUD and everything that we're going to hear in the next couple of days, really let's just focus on one chart. Let's focus on the oil chart. And the oil chart literally gave us an amazing support resistance line, a trend line that we can look at to tell us exactly what's going. And if we break above it, well, then the stock markets are going to go down. As you can see, since we've been coming below it, Bitcoin and stock markets have actually started to recover. So let's keep an eye on the charts, and I think that'll tell us everything that we need to know about the reality of the situation. When it comes to the US's involvement here, so this is quite an interesting turn of events. So you will remember that Trump actually warned that something may be happening in the Middle East. And I don't know, I would say that based on all the information that I showed you guys yesterday, pretty much Trump was, I won't say behind it, but certainly not against it. And certainly, I mean, he seemed to be supporting the whole thing. The truth is, though, that as soon as this attack actually happened, what happened was the United States basically distanced itself from the attack. And it said, tonight, Israel took unilateral action against Iran. We are not involved in the strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. Israel advised us that they believe this action was necessary for its self-defense. President Trump and the administration have taken all the necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran should not target US personnel or targets or interests. So what they're saying is, look, we're going to do this. Like, yes, I mean, we knew about it, but Israel acted unilaterally. We're not a part of this. So the US is distancing itself. And the reason why the US is distancing itself is because what this was from the United States was a plan to get Iran to negotiate with them around abandoning its nuclear aspirations. And so the US has now distanced itself. However, at the same time, Trump has been on Truth Social, and he basically says, look, I gave Iran a chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest words, just do it. But no matter how hard I tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything that they know and anticipated or were told, that the United States makes by far the best lethal military equipment anywhere in the world, by far, and that Israel has a lot of it with much more to come. And they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. They're all dead now. And it'll only get worse. There's been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make the slaughter, with the next attacks already being planned and even more brutal, come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there's nothing left and save what was once the Iranian empire. No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it's too late. God bless you all. So, I mean, Trump says, look, Israel acted, but I mean, on Truth Social, he pretty much says, look, they acted with our equipment, and they acted with and there's going to be more attacks. So they acted with our equipment, and we know that there's going to be more attacks, but we distance ourselves. I mean, I don't really know how that works. I really don't know how that works. So that is the message from Iran. He's urging them to make a deal before it's actually too late. And funny enough, you know, Trump's all about promises made and promises kept. He says 2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They should have done it. Today's day 61. I told them what to do, but they just couldn't get there. Now they have perhaps a second chance. He's basically saying to Iran, listen, this is just a preemptive strike. And if you don't come to the negotiating table with us, then things are going to get a whole lot worse for you. And so that's the clear, single-minded message that Trump is basically sending to Iran. So yes, maybe there were no US planes involved in this, and maybe no US artillery involved in this, but the US supplied the weapons to Israel and knew it was going to happen, and I guess probably gave its blessing, but they're distancing themselves and they're saying, look, don't attack us. It was Israel, and Israel did it on their own. I believe that there's no way in hell that Netanyahu would have done this without Trump's backing. I mean, Israel's a tiny, tiny, tiny nation, and without Trump's backing, there's no way that he would do something like this. Anyway, for now, the Iranians have pulled out of the nuclear talks, and that's until further notice. So now the big thing is, how long is this thing actually going to last? Is it finished? I mean, Israel attacked, Iran countered, nothing actually happened with the Iran counter. Is it finished? Is Iran going to strike next? What happens next? Well, let's say this. For one, I've got a message from my contacts in Israel, and they say it's not over yet. There's still something that's going to happen, and it's going to happen pretty soon. I can't tell you where I got that information, but I can tell you it's really, really, really good information. And it literally says it's not over yet. Number two, Israel has warned that the IDF is at the beginning stages. We know that Iran is going to prepare firing on Israel. So we know they're going to continue. In fact, Israel warned that it warned its citizens to prepare for about 2 weeks of this. Now, of course, you can't say that because Israel publicly warned its citizens that this will last for 2 weeks, because that could just be posturing, right? They could just be saying that because they know that the Iranians are listening, and so the Iranians must brace themselves for 2 weeks. But I can tell you that this is not over. And I can tell you that there's more attacks actually coming, because I have it from a very, very, very good source right on the inside that tells me that this thing's not actually happening. So how long will it last? And how long will it actually affect markets, right? So let me show you how bad it is. I know that there's going to be headlines, and I know the headlines are going to tell us that this is the beginning of World War III, and it's going to escalate, and markets are going to crash, and be very, very careful, and blah, 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 blah. Guys, I want to just give you some perspective. This is what all the previous wars looked like. This is the chart of the S&P, the US markets, and this is really every single other war. And you can see that generally, when we have wars, there's a certain pattern that actually plays out. And I want to talk to you about that certain pattern. Generally, when these wars start, you get a few days of the markets actually going down, because when the attacks happen, when the first strike actually happens, what happens is the market starts to price in the worst. And then what usually happens is the market rationalizes the situation. So you have an attack. The perception when the attack happens is, oh my goodness, we're going into World War III, the whole world's about to collapse. And then what slowly happens is the market goes from the extreme panic back to some kind of reality of saying, oh, this is isolated to a region. Oh, the US isn't really getting involved. Oh, this can't last very long. Oh, the Iranian leadership has already been destroyed, right? And so what you basically get is you get the first move is usually the most aggressive move. Now, the question is, how long does this actually last? So how long does this first move usually actually last, right? So if you look at how long this actually lasts, generally, if you look at like other invasions, example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, you can see that within about 2 weeks to 12 days, oil moved up 38%. And that was the end of the move. So that move was about 12 days. Then you look at the October 7th attacks on Israel. And here, for like 3 days, oil went up by about 5%, and that's pretty much where it stopped. And if you look at all these times in history, what you realize is that these things actually don't last very long. Usually it takes about 7 days for the markets to bottom in these cases. So usually about 7 days after the first attack, the markets bottom, and then the markets realize that they've gone too long, and then the markets actually start to recover, right? So you can see the same thing when you look at Bitcoin. So you look at Bitcoin when there were rumors of the Russian invasion against Ukraine. It went down from the 17th to 24th, about a week, and then it started to recover. And if you look at other scenarios, when Hamas attacked Israel, October 7th, the markets went down, Bitcoin went down for about 5 days, and then the market started to recover, right? Or 7 days, the market started to recover. Iran launched the missiles, the 200 missiles on Israel. Market drops by 9%, and market recovered pretty much almost immediately, right? So what you can see is that when the attack actually happens, that is when the markets start to go down. Usually, and I say usually because there's going to be exceptions, and maybe if one day we do get into a World War III type scenario, then maybe the markets will continue to go down for long periods of time. But otherwise, the markets really have a pattern, and the pattern is a very simple pattern. Markets respond quickest on the attack. Then over time, they start to rationalize the attack. They start to find all the good points. Oh, there's going to be negotiations. Oh, there's going to be this. Oh, there's going to be that. And then markets basically start to recover. And that's pretty much what I'm expecting here. We've had the first drop. We probably have a couple more attacks. There'll probably be a little bit more posturing. Maybe we'll get another little drop. I reckon within 7 days, the market actually starts to recover, which effectively means that you've got about 7 days to position yourself. If you believe that thesis, you've got about 7 days to position yourself into the perfect buying opportunity, right? Because maybe I actually started buying this morning because I saw some things, and I'll show you exactly why I started buying this morning. But the reality is that you have about 7 days to position yourself and to actually execute your trades before the market actually starts to recover, if this thing is exactly like all the other wars and all the other events and incidents that we've actually had. So let's now look at the altcoins, because the altcoins are the ones that got the most obliterated. As you can see, they are over here. So the altcoins got completely obliterated. Every single bubble except for Aerodrome. When we'll talk about Aerodrome is red. You've got massive drops on the altcoins. As I said in my tweet last night, I really feel this by Israel was an extremely targeted attack. But the thing is that it was targeting my specific altcoins. That's how I felt this morning when I actually woke up. The one thing that you can look at is if you look at the charts. This is the other dominance chart. Other dominance shows the dominance of the other altcoins versus Bitcoin, right? Versus the rest of the market. And what you can see is that this chart has now broken a 10-year trend line downwards, which is not really a good sign because it's broken down below the trend line. Now, what we want ideally is we want this to recover and actually get through back over this trend line. Now, we want it to get over the trend line, and certainly we don't want it to hit the trend line and start coming down again, because that would be a perfect breakdown and a perfect retest, which we don't want, okay? So, and that also plays, by the way, into Benjamin Cowen's thesis. Remember when he came onto the channel, he actually showed us this chart, which was total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin, which is effectively others divided by Bitcoin. And he said, look, he doesn't think it'll turn until it actually hits this line. And, at the time, he got a lot of hate. He got a lot of hate from actually quite a few of you guys. But what you can see is that it's now hit this trend line. Now, the question is, will altcoins bounce on this trend line, or will they carry on going down here until they hit his ultimate target of 0.25, which is about 30% or 25% down? Now, remember, it's relative to Bitcoin. So it doesn't mean they're going to go down 25 to 30%. It means relative to Bitcoin, they're going to go down 25 to 30%, which means that Bitcoin may fly and the rest may actually stay the same. And so my thesis is the following. We may go through a little bit of a rough week and altcoins and we'll give back some of our gains for a very short period of time. But I actually think that then there's going to be a massive turnaround. Now, I don't know if it's going to be in the next month or in the next 3 months, but I want to show you the scenario. The scenario actually isn't my own thinking. It's a friend of mine who sent this to me. And the first line that he said to me, bro, this is great news all around. I was like, what? How can you say great news all around? Obviously, it can't be great news for the families, but let's talk about why it is actually great news all around. He says, look, soon we're going to get a China-US trade deal. We're going to get a Russia-Ukraine deal. And we've got Iran pretty much eliminated out of the markets here. And when that actually happens, then markets will send like crazy, because what you got to remember is that Iran has always been a cloud over markets. Every time markets want to run, there's like this cloud of thought of like, Iran's going to get involved. Iran, nuclear weapons, Iran. Now they've pretty much eliminated or are eliminating Iran out of the discussion. At the same time, there's a China-US trade deal. And I mean, I think if anybody's going to end the Russia-Ukraine war, it's probably going to be Trump. I don't think it's going to happen today or tomorrow, but I certainly do think that Trump is the one that's going to end this war. And when all of this happens, then markets are going to run like crazy. And so I think you've got to look at it like this. I know on days like this, when markets are down, it's very hard. And I know a lot of people are basically thinking, oh my God, this is World War III is coming and whatever else. But I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that the media and the shock of what's happened is why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And I think that generally, if the markets respond this way, then the numbers will basically go up. So that's my view on what's happening in the Iran-Israel war. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like my analysis. If you do, maybe smash the like button, share it with some friends. I see that my network doesn't like it. My network, we should just ban him from the chat. Someone says markets will crash harder next week. They could. Like I said, there's usually that's 7 days of down. We've had day one. You're going to get 7 days of down. You could get 7 days of down. I'm not scared. I'm buying in these 7 days. You really have got 7 days to start buying it. What am I buying? Well, for me, it's pretty simple. I look at all the things that I got FOMO about last week that I didn't buy. Things like all the DeFi protocols, which I probably should have bought more of. And I didn't buy them. Remember, like all the things, like for example, I know that I was looking to buy 𝗥𝗘𝗃. And the thing with 𝗥𝗃𝗃 is that 𝗥𝗃𝗃 really ran on that Solana staking announcement. So I don't know if you remember, but there was a Solana ETF staking announcement. And actually the price of 𝗥𝗃𝗃 spiked from around 160 or 170 all the way up to 227. And 227, I got massive FOMO. Why? Because I really wanted to buy 𝗥𝗃𝗃. Why? Because my thesis is the following. There's going to be a Solana ETF which is approved. When that Solana ETF gets approved, it'll probably be approved with staking. If the Solana ETF is approved with staking, the biggest custodian of that will be the protocol that actually does the staking. And the protocol that actually does the staking in this case is actually 𝗥𝗃𝗃, right? And so I really wanted to buy 𝗥𝗃𝗃 last week. I missed it. It went up to 230. But then this morning it came down back to 188. And so I landed up actually buying this. And there are a whole lot of these others. In fact, this morning, as soon as I woke up, in Frontrunners, I actually posted exactly what I was buying. And I posted a full analysis in Frontrunners. And I think a lot of the people in Frontrunners actually joined me on the trades. Now, again, if you want to join us in Frontrunners, just try it for a month. Do me a favor. I mean, literally, the first month is pretty much free. Why? Because if you don't like it, you can just ask for your money back and you'll get your money back. Just join using that link. All the buys, and especially now, we're doing a lot of buying and a lot of trading because of what's happening. It's all available over here. All right, let's talk about some other news, which is not war-related news, but I think also very, very, very big crypto news. I don't know if you guys were following, but yesterday Coinbase did their, I don't know what they call it. I think did they call it a State of Crypto Summit? Or yeah, it's a State of Crypto Summit. I think that was what they called it. Ooh. Ironically, Trump was the one that actually opened the summit, and he said, "Look, we've given you a strategic reserve."
It's an honor. I really do consider that a very big honor, actually. And starting on day one, we ended the Biden administration's war on crypto. It was an absolute war and very unfair. And we unleashed American innovators to do what you do best, lead the world into new frontiers. We ended Operation Choke Point 2.0. I created the first presidential working group on digital assets. I named a
So Trump was there, and basically he finished off this talk by saying, look, we're just getting started. There's a lot more that's actually going to happen. But a lot of big things came out of this Coinbase thing, because I think what's happened with Coinbase is Coinbase were really working hard during the Biden administration to do a whole lot of things. But they never launched these things. And the reason why they never launched these things was because there was never regulatory clarity. And I think what they were doing was they were delaying all these announcements and all these launches until such time as they felt the time was right. And obviously with Trump in the White House and David Sachs in the White House, they now believe that the time is right. And so what they did was they launched a whole slew of products yesterday. Crazy, incredible products, and some of them which will actually move some of our best tokens. So let's look at some of the things that they actually launched yesterday. So They launched perpetual futures in the United States. Like that's coming pretty soon. That's very, very, very big news. It means that our friends in the US won't have to sign up to Blowfin and all the other exchanges, although right now you can sign up to Blowfin to trade futures. They launched, Shopify is rolling out being able to pay with stable coins on their platform. Get this. Shopify is launching, they've got 875 million customers, right? And they're launching the ability to pay with stable coins on Base.
See, you made an announcement here on stage with Shopify today, the Coinbase State of Crypto Summit. Shopify is now going to allow payments with USDC on the Base network. So stablecoins are really having a whole moment here. I need you first to break down this announcement.
Yeah, so I think Shopify rolling out stablecoins across their platform is a watershed moment for crypto, where for the first time, stablecoins are fast, cheap, easy, and they're getting rolled out into a real consumer payments experience. You know, Shopify had 875 million people pay on Shopify stores last year, more than $1 trillion of value processed. And now all of those folks are going to have access to stablecoins over the next year. And so for us, this is exactly the kind of real world crypto adoption that we are trying to drive. And when we think about Base, Base is a chain, but really what we're doing is we're building a global economy. Where you can build use cases like this, like stablecoins, like payments, like social apps, really like anything you can imagine, and have it by default be globally accessible. So regardless of where...
stablecoins on Base, Shopify launched that. Phantom announced that users can now connect their Phantom wallet to make USDC base payments, which is quite big. Then there was another big announcement. So they launched a card. So basically there's a card. They launched a Shopify, almost like a debit credit card. You can earn up to 4% Bitcoin back on every purchase. So you basically spend with this card and you earn 4% back on basically in the form of a kickback on your purchases. Then there was another big announcement. That's the card. The card actually does look very, very fucking cool. It's a metal and engraved card with a Genesis block. It's amazing. It's powered by American Express, and the cash back is paid in Bitcoin, which is quite big. Then they made another announcement, which is, I think, a very, very, very big announcement. They said, in fact, you can hear it.
That's why today I'm incredibly excited to share with you that we will be integrating decentralized exchanges from Base directly into the main Coinbase app, enabling Coinbase users.
Onto the main Coinbase app, they are integrating decentralized exchanges, which means that using the Coinbase app, users will either be able to trade on Coinbase, the centralized exchange, or on Coinbase or on Base decentralized exchanges. Now, the biggest custodian of that would be Aerodrome, because Aerodrome is the biggest DEX on Base. So we will be integrating DEXs from Base. As I said, Aerodrome, best-in-class trade execution, will soon be coming to millions of Coinbase users. And that's why if you look at the bubbles today, what you'll realize is that the one green bubble amongst the red is Aerodrome, which is up 16%. This is actually one that I bought and I've been telling the front runners to buy. And now it's actually going up. And actually, I think it's a very good time to actually buy it now, because it didn't actually get the chance to run because of the invasion. And if there wasn't the invasion, you can kind of see that this was already at like nearly 70 cents. So I think you're still getting it at a pretty good deal here. Yeah, so that was pretty much the big Coinbase announcements. So that was actually quite big news. Then one other bit of news. I know we've been following 𝗙 and we've been following their speed test, because that's the blockchain that is invested in by Eric Schmidt from Google. And they were out to prove that they could achieve 10 million transactions per second. They did this in a scenario where they were being audited by outside auditors. And believe it or not, this was the test. You can see it over here.
Yeah. So we can see the test starting to ramp up. So it'll take a bit of time to get the nodes all scaled up. So it scales automatically as the load increases. In the first little bit, there may be some hiccups in the statistics as it scales up to be able to handle the load. So we'll give it a little bit to adjust.
Let's see if we can speed it up a little bit.
So the ledger's already starting at 500 million transactions, 550,000 blocks.
Anyway, so this test took place yesterday.
Delays and errors in the Statistics
And
is
actually,
waiting for the nodes to ramp up before it all
they got
stabilizes.
way higher than 10 million transactions per second. I think they got somewhere around 15 million transactions per second that was audited. So, I mean, this is a major breakthrough. What I'm waiting for now is to see if 𝗟𝗏𝗃 will actually retweet about it, because he said he would actually know that he said he actually would tweet something about it. So let's actually see. What else? I need, so number one, if you want to get this account, let's see, how is our account doing? Okay, we're down $1,800 today. We still got our 9 ETH position. Yeah, remember, if you want to win this account, we're going to keep adding ETH to this account. It's a leveraged account on Blowfin. You go here, there's a link. You sign up with the link, the Blowfin link. Ask them to add in my Blowfin campaign, please, Josh. There'll be a link here in 1 second. There'll be a link here and you guys can sign up. And if you sign up with Blowfin, you actually get one lucky winner will get the account before or on the 10th of July. All right, then lastly for today, I need your help. I really need your help. And I really would appreciate it if you guys help me here. So, as you know, our mission at Banter is to build the most profitable community in the world. And we do that by educating people around crypto. We do that on our shows every day. We bring you education and content. And then we also have a completely free crypto school. We're not asking for any money. We don't want money. It is an absolutely free crypto course. The way that this course is designed to teach anyone to become from a zero to a crypto pro in less than 7 days. Like literally, it takes you less than 7 days to go from nothing to learning about Bitcoin, ETH, smart contract platforms, how to trade, how to build a portfolio, etc. It's an absolutely free course. What I need you guys to do is, if you know anybody that's dying to get into crypto and they want to do a free course with me and 𝗕𝗏𝗃 and a whole lot of other cool people on Zoom, it takes less than 7 days. It's really one of the best courses we've ever made. There is a link below. Ask them to go and sign up to this Intro to Crypto course, because for now, this course is still free. We want to teach as many people as possible about crypto in a safe and fun environment. Yeah, so just ask them to sign up. Please, if you guys could circulate this. I know that you guys probably don't need it. You all know what Bitcoin is. You all know what ETH is. You all know exactly what a smart contract is. You all know what all those things are. But I know you've got friends that keep asking you about whether or not what Bitcoin is and stuff like that. Just get them to sign up the course. Anyway, so look, I'll see you guys again probably on the weekend. If anything happens on the weekend, I'll be right here and I'll be bringing you crypto love and crypto wisdom. Otherwise, I'll see you guys again on Monday. Until then, trade well, my friends.